I see a lot of people coming up and say, you know what? I want to have a career, but anything but sales.
I'd say get used to being broke.
I love it. I think it's true.
If you're going to make real money in this world, you're going to sell something.
Yeah.
Period. Like when people come to me, Brad, how can I make $1 million? I'm 23. I say, find something to sell. Okay. And then get really good at it. You have to get good at sales if you want to be successful. I don't believe anyone is successful without selling something.
Welcome to the Excellence Project. In this episode, we have Brad Lea. Brad is an influencer, entrepreneur, businessman, podcast host, well-known speaker, very opinionated about a lot of things. We talk about everything from upbringing to business to entrepreneurship, lessons learned along the way. I think you're going to enjoy it. So with no further ado, let's jump into our conversation with Brad Lea. Brad Lea, how you doing, man?
Very good.
My brother. So the night before we sit down to do this, we go to dinner and go to the Knights game, have a nice time with our wives out in the world. It's been a while since I saw you.
Yeah.
You know, what's been new other than the fact you becoming this big influencer around the world, speaking on all the stages. I remember, I think we talked a couple of years ago. You're like, I think I'm going to do a little bit more speaking. You know, I think I'm going to do something.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a little more speaking, a little more everything, but it's still on the same mission. The mission is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it.
Nice.
That's all I'm doing really on a regular basis. I wake up and I think that kind of capacity, how do I get the knowledge from people like yourself out to the world? So it's got my podcast, my business, you know, all the things that I do drive towards that.
So I want to get into what you've done in building your brand, and I want to get into your podcast. I want to get into what's working as far as influence. I want to get to the message that you're sharing when you're out on the stages around the world. Before I do that, I want to do something that I've never done with you, which is, where did you come from? What is your story? You know, where did you grow up? You know, what kind of a kid were you? What shaped you into the person that you are today? What's the origin story of the real Brad Lea?
You know, it's funny because, you know, it wasn't growing up that did it. Because growing up, I was a little bit of a hoodlum, you know, a little smart ass, running around, thought I knew everything, you know, wasn't afraid to steal. I'd go into stores with a shopping list from friends and family telling me what they wanted. And I would just walk into the store and take it.
Really? Oh. Where'd you grow up?
Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. Or allegedly I would. I don't know what the statutes are. But again, I mean, you know, now I'm the exact opposite. Like I wouldn't steal anything, even if I could get away with it. Like somewhere along the way, I matured and developed ethics and integrity. But as a younger kid, they weren't instilled in me. Like no one, like one time my dad, for Christmas, I stole him a razor, a Norelco razor, like electric razor. You know, I'm like 14. He knows I don't have $200 to buy this thing, but he didn't question it. He's like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" I said, "I found it on the bus." He said, "Oh, okay. What else you find on the bus?" You know, he didn't say, "Dude, what are you doing?" So I think over time I developed ethics and integrity. But when I was younger, growing up, I was kind of a smart ass little hoodlum, not a bad guy, but just, again, not a real ethical fella.
What were you a good student?
When I applied myself, yeah.
So, I mean, what does that mean? How often did you apply yourself?
My dad said he'd give me $100 for every A that I got. So I got straight A's. And when I brought home the report card, he didn't give me 100. And so I just said, you know, I started getting C's and D's. So if you look back at my transcripts, I was a C and D student with remarks that said, Brad is very intelligent if he applies himself. So I just didn't really care. Also, I was younger than everybody in my grade. So when I was born, it was January. And you know how sometimes when it becomes January, you accidentally write the old year out of habit. So that's what the nurses did with my birth certificate. When I was born, it was 1969, but it was put on a birth certificate in 1968. So they screwed up and put 1/27/68, right? So my parents had two birth certificates, one that said 68, one that said 69. It was 69, but the year had just changed, so they were used to writing 68, and that's what they wrote. So long story short, they took that birth certificate and put me in school when I was 5. Everyone else was 6. So I was always younger than my grade. So the teacher would allow me to drink coffee so I would not disrupt the class. I was a hyperactive kid running around. According to my mom, she said they wanted
Would they call it ADHD now?
They did back then too. And
Really?
apparently they wanted me to be on Ritalin, but my parents said no Ritalin, from what I hear, thank God. But anyway, I was just a hyperactive little run around clown.
Yeah.
Didn't do very good in school, dropped out of school. In fact, in the 11th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Wanted to be a movie star.
So you like dropped out. Your parents were okay with this?
No, they weren't. Well, they weren't okay, but they weren't. My dad kicked me out of the house when I was 16.
Okay.
Because I didn't mow the lawn like I said I would. So he kicked me out of the house. As soon as he kicked me out of the house, I was on my own.
Where'd you go?
Just friends, sleeping on couches.
Sleeping on couches. And you say, okay, I'm going to be a movie star.
Yeah, then I, decided I wanted to jam to LA and become a movie star.
So you moved down there when you're 17.
Uh-huh.
Go down to LA to the predators in that environment. Seeing the young kid come in, did you do the typical thing of get a serving job, or how did you survive?
Well, ultimately, I mean, there's a story in between, and but
well, I have to know.
Well, the first time I went down there, I ended up on the beach, living on the beach for a couple of weeks because I didn't have any money and I didn't want to go home. So what's funny is a lot of people ask me, what it feel like when you hit rock bottom? And I said, I didn't really hit rock bottom. And they said, didn't you say you were homeless on the beach? And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, how's that rock bottom? So my perspective has always been from a optimistic side.
Right.
I chose to be on the beach, but ultimately I just found a girl, went out hunting for girls every day, one that had transportation, place to stay, ended up staying with a girl. But just, hustled, waited tables, did what I could to get money. And then eventually didn't really want to be broke. And so I said, yeah, I'm going to go get rich, come back and be a movie star later.
So did you get any roles, any acting jobs?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do?
Levi's commercial, Knots Landing, Dynasty.
We have to see the Knots Landing and Dynasty. Do you have these clips?
I don't have the clips. They were a long time ago.
Come on. What episode? What season?
I had a starring role in a movie 3 days before production. The producer's son got out of a drug rehab, and so he gave him my part. The writer who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest wrote me a new part to where now I'm playing my character's son. So ended up, filming that, but just ultimately after that, I just said, I'm going to go make millions of dollars and come back and be the producer.
And how old were you when that happened?
I would say 19.
Okay. So you didn't go to college?
No.
Okay. Me either. I went to one semester of community college.
I think I went to community college once,
yeah.
but I wasn't there legally. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay.
I was there for the girls.
Right. Out for the girls, hanging out. And when you left Hollywood, where'd you go?
Back home, probably. I mean, not home to my
Where'd you go to
house.
go make your fortune?
What do you mean?
You said you were going to leave Hollywood. You're going to stop acting.
It's been a long time before I make my fortune.
And you say, I'm going to go out there.
I started
and
selling
get rich.
cars.
Okay.
I came back to my hometown. Everyone was telling me to get a real job. So I went and got a job fighting forest fires. I thought, everyone in town thought that was the best job to have. If you could get that job, boy, you're lucky. So I showed up on the first day and realized I didn't want to do that. I got poison oak and showed him that I had a little poison oak on my arm, and the guy was covered in it and said, dude, that's part of the job. And I said, look, I'm not doing this. And so everyone said I was crazy for quitting. I opened up a newspaper, saw an ad for selling cars, went and applied, got the job, never left sales ever since.
Right.
So, I mean, they wanted me to get poison oak and walk up and down mountains for $22 an hour. I was making 4 or 5 times that, selling cars, wearing a suit, cologne. That's back when double-breasted suits, they're coming back, by the way.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. Double-breasted suit. I used to remember, I'd say I'd never wear anything other than double-breasted. And now, eventually it's like, dude, you can't wear double-breasted. But now I'm watching the fashion and they're coming back. But so I would walk around in a suit, all day long, tie, and make.
And was this in California also?
This was in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay. Back in Oregon.
So then I started selling cars. And then since then, I just stayed in sales. I was always selling something.
Were you good at
RVs,
it? Were you naturally good at it?
Work. Yeah. I mean,
How long did it take before you felt like you were good at selling cars?
I think I was good from the get-go. You know, when I was 6 years old, I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but in first grade, they gave me a box of candy bars to go sell to my family. And then you're supposed to bring the ones you don't sell back. So I went home and my family wasn't buying shit. So I decided to go knock on doors. So I started knocking on doors, and within a couple of doors, I developed a script, basically. And I would say, when they answered the door, do you know the phone number to a good roof repairman? And they would say, well, why? And I'd take the box out from behind my back and say, when you taste one of these, you're going to go through the roof. And they'd just start laughing and freaking buying boxes at a time. Instead of onesie twosies, they were buying boxes. Like, I'll take the whole box, kid. That's funny. Next case. So the school gave me all the candy bars that the other kids couldn't sell. And I literally sold every candy bar the school was sent. It was a record. It probably still is the record. And that was at 6, maybe 7. I forget, but it was first or second grade.
First or second grade, you come up with a script and crush it.
No one told me about that. You know, I just did it. But that's when I learned, you know, I can sell.
Right.
But I didn't realize it, because when I went and got a real job, quote unquote, real job, you know, I would have not done that had I realized I was a good salesperson. So I've forgotten. But I was always able to convince people to do things.
Yeah,
ladies.
You had some charisma.
Yeah.
You had
a little charm, a little
gift
charisma.
of gab.
I was an influencer, kind of.
You were able to, if there was a party, you could probably invite people and fill it up.
Yeah. I was the life of the party. I was an influencer for sure. Like, I influenced people. But 9 times out of 10, it was bullshit.
Really? What does that mean?
I was bullshit.
So and
lying.
So here's a question: is bullshit okay to influence or not?
Not if you want it to last.
Okay.
Like, you know, can you get by with a little bullshit? Absolutely. Can you get laid? For sure. You know, bullshit them all night long till you wake up, and then you find one that you really like, and you know, you told her you were a plastic surgeon, and she finds out you're not. You know, you're kind of over. So temporarily, it's okay to bullshit, I guess, if you're trying to be temporary, but I would not advise bullshit if you're looking for long-term success.
So I see, were you,
and until I stopped bullshit,
right,
did I ever find it.
Okay. So I'm very curious as to this moment or this season when you say, I'm done with the bullshit. When did that happen?
Well, you know, ironically, back in my youth, I would say, I don't even remember how old I was, 7 or 8, like young. I used to tell my neighborhood kids that my dad owned Disneyland, and, you know, I'd show Monopoly cards to prove that we owned real estate. And I was literally trying to convince these people that my dad owned Disneyland. And it was mainly because we lived in a little shit house and everyone else surrounded by a nice house. You'll never see that anymore. My dad eventually built a house around this house where the actual full entire house became our sunken living room to the new house that he built around our house. So we eventually upscaled, and you know, I watched my dad kind of become entrepreneurial for a little bit. Then something happened and he lost that. But he, in the beginning, lived in a little shack, and everyone else had nice homes. And so I always felt ashamed that we were poor and everybody else had money. And so I would lie, like, about everything. Even if the truth sounded better, I would lie. And they quickly found out I was lying, obviously. And I was alienated for probably 3-4 years straight, where, you know, even parents didn't want their kids hanging out with me.
Everybody's rolling their eyes. Oh, here comes
just
Brad.
Why would he always lie? Like, the little kid's a liar. Like, he was just lie about everything. So I was alienated for like 3 or 4 years, from like 7 to 10 or 12 or somewhere around there, until my parents eventually moved from that town north about 20 miles. And that's when I said, I'm not.
So you had a fresh start.
I had a fresh start, clean slate.
Fresh start. Nobody knew you. No reputation. You say, okay, I'm gonna clean. You felt the pain.
Well, I said, I'm going to keep it real, and I'm going to tell the truth.
So that's the origin of keeping it real.
That's the origin, yeah. But there wasn't ethics yet.
Okay.
You know, I was using the influence for my gain.
Sure.
But I was keeping it real, and so that is the origin. But until I mixed it with integrity and ethics and doing the right thing, and, you know, changing my mindset, did it really do anything?
So
I mean, I got away with some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you start keeping it real and you probably got better results, right?
100%.
In school. All right. So that's number one.
Authenticity.
People felt like, he is what he is, like him or don't like him, he's straight shooter. You get out, you're going through your sales, all that stuff. When did you have the shift from kind of the bullshit to what you call your character, integrity, that type of stuff?
I've tried to look back and think, when was the pivot point?
Yeah.
And it's hard to identify it, but I believe when I was about 30,
okay,
I helped this kid that was making no money make money. And I watched the money that he made have a massive impact in his life. And I had already liked the guy. Like his family was nice. His kids were nice. Like he was just a real nice guy, but with no money. So I watched money turn this real nice guy into a much nicer guy. And believe it or not, like, because money ruins you. It didn't. It actually helped this guy and helped his family, helped his wife, helped his kids. And I thought, man, that felt good helping him, because I just helped him because I wanted to. I didn't charge him. It wasn't a plan. And that felt good. So I said, I want to do that for a living. And so in my mind, that is when I decided to start helping others instead of myself. And that's ironically when, I started heading down the path of success. So I like to say I would chase success until about that point, and then success started chasing me, even though it wasn't running very fast.
Right.
Like it's still kind of got a slow walk towards me. But.
Yeah. Like Jim Rohn used to say, success is something you attract by the person you become. It's not something you pursue.
Yeah.
It's something you attract. I think that's accurate. You talked about money for a second and what it does to people and what it doesn't do to people. You and I have been down the road and we've seen a lot. We've eaten from the tree of good and evil. We've seen people big names who present themselves to the world as one thing and they're not really. And then we see other people do the opposite. They're authentic when the camera's off and when the camera's on, same way. We've seen what money can do. What's your opinion of money and what it does or doesn't do to people?
Well, I'm very fond of it.
Yes.
I have a, affinity towards money.
Right.
I believe everyone should focus on it. There's 3 things I think everyone should focus on. Health being number 1, relationships being number 2, and money being number 3. Now, the reason why health, because if you lost that, you'd give it all to get it back. Relationships, because believe it or not, that's where all money comes from. All the money we receive is from a relationship of some kind. So the more relationships we have, obviously the more terminals, the more money potential. And then money, because it's that important. I mean, the society is built around money. Money gives you options and choices and access. And, it's the craziest thing, because the more money you get, the more access and relationships you can form. And the more relationships you form, the more money you get. It's a cyclical thing that most people don't understand. Or some of them will choose money over relationships, and then they soon will have neither. So health, relationships, money. So again, knowing that, my relationship with money and what do I think of it, I think it's extremely important.
And here's what I mean is some people, mostly people who don't have much money, like to say money is the problem.
I've never heard anyone with money say that.
Right.
FYI.
Right. So do you believe that money is an accelerator of whatever you are at your core?
I would say an amplifier, but yeah.
An amplifier. If you're a little bit of a bully, you can become a massive bully.
Yeah.
You're a little bit of an ass. You can become a massive ass. If you're a pretty good person, you have the option to be an even better person. If you're giving, you'll give even more. Is that your experience?
That's my experience. I think it just amplifies who you are. So if you're a dick, you're a bigger dick. And what's funny is, people say, well, he got a bunch of money and became a dick. Dude, if he was a dick with money, he was a bigger dick without money.
So what do you say to the people that say, money just makes people miserable?
I would say that you need to change your mindset real quick if you expect or desire any kind of success in life.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. Sure, some people with a lot of money are miserable.
Sure.
Because they've made choices, like you said, your little hierarchy that you laid down, 1, 2, 3, with health and relationships being priority over the money. If you keep that hierarchy, I think your chances of having a balance within your life is good. On the topic of money, are you worried about screwing up your kids by keep becoming super financially successful?
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And your kids are young.
Yeah. Well, I have old ones and young ones.
Yeah. So
now the old ones, I didn't have a bunch of money growing up, so they didn't get the.
Well, they're watching you now.
Daddy has whatever he wants. I know, but like they're adults.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't buy them cars and houses and stupid stuff.
Even though you could.
Even though I could, but no, I don't. I think when I die, they'll be happy because I'm not like Warren Buffett, where they're not going to get it all. They're going to get it all.
Right.
Like why would you give all your money away to charity and leave your kids hanging?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different. I have friends that I have a billionaire friend that he's a billionaire, and he's had the expectation of money with his children create lots of drama.
Oh, absolutely.
And because of that, he's just saying everybody gets, I think, $1.5 million. That's it. Everybody gets $1.5 million. The rest has to be given to charity within 20 years of their death. That's it. It's gone. Yeah. Go build yourself a future is what is his philosophy. And I'm like, wow, that seems a little, I kind of understand on some point because you want to keep the ambition going, that the whole,
I don't.
The whole meme of, strong parents lead to weak people, and then weak kids, and then weak kids lead to stronger parents. And then the cycle goes.
That's what they say.
But
I have 3 little girls, the young ones.
Yes.
And I want them, I don't want to say arrogant, but I want their standards to be high.
Yes.
Yeah. So no jerk off's going to come along and freaking
see if he can buy them.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So when I die, my kids will get it all.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Equally, everybody?
Yeah, equally.
Yeah, got it. All right.
And then that'll keep it drama free. The only thing I have as a catch is if I was murdered, or there's any foul play, all the money gets frozen until there's a thorough investigation.
Just in case.
If you killed me, you get nothing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's fair.
I want to make sure that people know, I'll get a bunch when he dies, but only if it's natural or some other accident. If there's any foul play, you get nothing.
Yeah. Fair.
All money gets frozen. Other than that, I want to give it to him.
Right.
Because again, I mean, if my dad gave me a bunch of money, I don't think I would have been ruined. Now, a lot of people will say so, but it's the same people that says that are the ones that say money doesn't make you happy.
Right.
Well, I agree that money alone doesn't make you happy, but money doesn't make you unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, if you're happy with, like I'm happy without money. Coincidentally, I believe in risk. I'm not afraid of risk, and I'll bet you aren't either.
No, I have the bigger risk tolerance. Marina and myself both have a bigger risk tolerance than just about everybody we know.
Well, it's because in my mind, I know I can make more. Like if I lose it, oh well, I've been broke before, and I was happy broke.
Yeah,
but I'm happier with money.
Yeah, I mean,
there's just less pressure. It's like you have options. It's freedom. My little girls, love Disney. So my wife's like, can we go on this Disney cruise? They have a royal suite available. And I'm like, sure. Like, dude, that's what makes me happy is giving. I think that's the highest expression of love is giving.
Yeah.
And so how can you give if you have no money?
Right.
Well, you can give time. You can give your love and your knowledge. Like, come on, you're making excuses because you don't have any money to give. I say, go get money and get a bunch of it. Not at the expense of relationships, though. I believe in relationships over money.
Right. Love it. So you go through this process. Back to the origin story of the Real Brad Lea. Mm-hmm. You go through this process of kind of little rascal growing up.
I'd say rascal.
To at least authentic Brad in school. To go to Hollywood realize I got to go make some money first, and I'm going to come back to Hollywood and be king. Get involved in sales, and you've never left. And you know what I realized? Most of the big earners and big thinkers in the world, they're all salespeople. Salespeople.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. They're selling an idea. Elon Musk is a salesman.
Sure he is.
He's an engineer.
We're all salespeople.
He's an engineer. He's redesigning the mechanics of the world, but he's a salesman. You know, and he gets on Twitter or he does an interview with Joe Rogan. He's selling. That's why they don't have to spend any money on advertising for a Tesla car.
But we're all salespeople.
Yeah. Well, again, but I think it's so important to identify as a salesperson.
Like, what do you think LeBron James does for a living?
Well,
people will say play basketball.
On one side, he's a blue collar worker playing basketball, trading time for money inside of that. But inside of the endorsement side of what he does and the business side of what he does, which is much, much bigger, he's a salesman.
He sells tickets. He sells popcorn. He sells shirts. Yeah. I mean, dude, everyone sells. I try to tell people that because I think the difference between good salespeople and bad salespeople are the good ones know they're doing it and the bad ones don't. They don't know that they're doing it, so they're bad at it.
Why do people have such a aversion to this label of being a salesman or a saleswoman?
I think because of stereotypes.
The used car guy.
Yeah, slimy, lying,
the realtor,
cheating,
whatever. What
dirty.
do people? And I have no issues with, and car people are realtors, but sometimes they get or insurance salesmen get another. They get labeled. People in network marketing get labeled as this pushy stuff, and some of it's true.
Some of them good. Yeah, there are some bad salespeople out there with bad intentions, but there's a lot of good ones too.
It's like, but I see a lot of people coming up and say, you know what, I want to have a career, but anything but sales.
I'd say get used to being broke.
I love it. And I think it's true.
If you're going to make real money in this world, you're going to sell something.
Yeah.
Period. Like when people come to me, Brad, how can I make $1 million? I'm 23. I say, find something to sell. Okay. And then get really good at it. You have to get good at sales if you want to be successful. I don't believe anyone is successful without selling something. Name somebody.
I agree. Well, maybe like Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett sold something.
What?
What are you talking about?
He just invested capital.
He
deployed capital.
He was selling stocks and advice and not,
I suppose.
not
Yeah,
necessarily
I guess
directly.
he was selling to his investors. Here's why it's a good
100%.
idea. Yeah, I'll buy that.
And besides that, I wouldn't fancy myself an investor.
Right. So
I'm no Warren Buffett. Okay.
Yeah.
I
well,
just follow his advice.
Who is?
But you know what his advice is? Long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And besides that, like, no offense to Warren, because I hate when people hate on people. I'm not hating on him, but I wouldn't trade me for him.
No.
Hell no.
Yours is more interesting than sitting and reading 8 hours a day.
Dude, if someone said right now I could wake up and be Warren Buffett or stay myself, I'm going to stay myself.
Right.
I don't care how much money he has. I don't care how well he's done. Okay. I'd rather be me than Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
I'd rather be me than damn near anybody. And that's, I think, the problem with most people. There's people out there that don't think they deserve any better because deep down they don't like themselves.
Let me ask you this question. Would you rather be you right now or you at 30 years old again?
I would rather be ideally, 30 years old again because, youth and fun. But now, because I'm guaranteed the next 26 years or 24 years.
What does that mean?
Well, I've made it 54 years.
Oh, yeah, I see.
I'm thankful of that because
Yeah.
there's some people out there listening that are not going to.
Right.
So if I went back to 30, there's no guarantee I'll hit 54 again.
Right.
So like I'm taking me now over me 30.
Got it. So
Now, if I could go back to 30 years old knowing what I know right now,
right.
I'll take 30
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine that time machine?
and hope I didn't die.
And
But you never know, Eric. Like
imagine you're back at 30 and you're just like, I'm just waiting till the internet hits and I'm going to make all the
Bitcoin.
dollars.
I'd be working hard, saving every dime for Bitcoin.
I'm going to make all the dollars, everything in the world.
But at the end of the day, people want to hate on money. I think because we were taught to. I mean, I heard it my whole life,
Like what were the memes you heard?
Well, everything was just scarce. Money doesn't grow on trees. You better save it. Save it for what? Save it for a rainy day. And I'm always like, what's wrong with a sunny day? Like, I don't understand. Why would you save the money for a rainy day? Well, in case something happens, better safe than sorry. Really? Is it? I mean, I don't necessarily agree. I think in abundance, I can make more. So let me use this and let me use that. And I started using money, investing money. And it worked.
So you go through sales. And how long were you in sales before you started your own company?
Let's say 18 to 30. So what, 12 years?
12 years. Did well in sales, I'm guessing, during that period of
Incredibly
time.
well.
Yeah. And
kicked everybody's ass.
Yeah.
Always top sales guy.
Right. And then you get into the entrepreneurial thing. Say, you know what, I'm going to work for myself.
Mm-hmm.
What were the benefits of switching to entrepreneurialism versus a sales focus?
I don't like being told what to do. And so when I worked for myself, no one could tell me what to do. That was the main benefit.
Yeah. And what was the first company you started?
Well, I tried a couple before I was 30, but the first company I started that worked is Lightspeed.
Really?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
No.
So
that was when I was 30.
No way.
24 years ago.
So tell everybody about Lightspeed. This is how Brad and I met. He's got this company here in Las Vegas. We met several years back and became friends. And you've built this business and had it this entire time. And I also want to talk about what you've done on top of that over the course of the last couple of years, which has been really fun to watch. But tell everybody what Lightspeed is, what it does.
Well, Lightspeed's a web-based training system that I kind of invented because when I quit my job to go help other people make money, I went out on the road and it didn't work. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. Because when I worked at this company, training people and producing winners left and right, it was easy. And that's why I quit, because I thought, man, I can do this. This is not a problem at all. So I went out and tried to replicate the success and it didn't work. And I couldn't figure out why. So I kind of did a little test to see what I used to do versus what I'm doing now. And I found 4 key ingredients that I didn't understand. First one, if you really want to train somebody, train, the key word is train. You have to have good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. So when I worked here and they worked for me, I had good content, repetition, practice, and accountability over and over and over, and I developed them. When I went out on the road to just pay me to train your team, I was there for a day or two. There was good content, but there was no repetition, there was no practice, and there was no accountability. So it wasn't working, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized that. So I thought I need to invent something that allows me to deliver my content with repetition, practice, and accountability without me living out of a suitcase, being on the road all the time. So I invented Lightspeed for myself first. So I put my content in there and it started working extremely well. And then people started saying, well, we use this person or that person. So I just decided to go start, instead of competing with those people, I would just collaborate with those people. And so I started saying, hey, how are you training your people? And so I would start closing the people that they would tell me they're using on using my software. And I would get what's called a piece from my niece, a little fraction of the action, a little tad, because I'm Brad. So I white labeled the system, filmed their content, dropped it in, and then they'd go sell it and issue passwords, and they didn't have to develop their own. But the unique part about Lightspeed that most people don't realize is the true reason is the interactivity. You see, Lightspeed will allow you to create interactive content. If you try to take this footage and make it interactive, number one, you can't. And if you could, it's going to be very expensive for 5 minutes worth. Lightspeed creates interactive content from regular video. So it allows you to create interactive content. And the reason you want interactivity is so you can ask questions and essentially make offers. So if you send somebody through a course that's just a video, all they see is the video. But if you send them through an interactive course, you pick up 10 pieces of information and offer them 6 things based on that, you're going to pick up a lot more revenue. So anyway, it just kind of finally hit over a course of 24 years and became, usable. I would say. And that's the first business that worked.
Love that. And a few years back, you decided, you know what? I'm going to take my message and I'm going to find unique ways to get it out in the world, whether it's in social media, largely podcasts. You're probably best known for podcasts, wouldn't you say?
I don't know.
Where do you think you're best known from?
TikTok.
Okay. So
that's where I got the most followers.
So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram,
Twitter,
LinkedIn, podcast, those types of things.
Yeah.
You started this podcast called Dropping Bombs, which is a great title, by the way. Back to the authentic thing. Talk about, you're kind of known in some circles as the real Brad Lea. Where did the real thing come from?
Ultimately, there's two causes for it, but the main cause was somebody had a Twitter account under my name and they were tweeting stupid shit, trying to make me look stupid. And so I had to create the real Brad Lea because someone took Brad Lea and they were tweeting stupid stuff like, I'm cool. I get, just dumb stuff. You probably know the person if I told you.
Really?
Yeah. Who did it? And so I told Twitter, hey, and they wouldn't do anything about it. So I had to make the real Brad Lea so people wouldn't think I was that one. That's the real reason it ever said the real Brad Lea. But another thing is I would be in virtual training for several years. So a lot of the dealerships that use my system would see me every day virtually. And one day I was in Florida and I walked into the dealership that had my software, and the girl picked up the phone and she called the GM and she goes, Brad Lea is here. And you could hear her go, no, he's here. Like the real Brad Lea is here. And then he walked in and he goes, hey, the real Brad Lea, which was ironic because that technically was my Twitter, but no one knew me on Twitter. But that's the dual reasons.
I love it. And in this early origin story of becoming real, becoming authentic,
yeah,
you've kind of developed a reputation of straight shooting,
keeping it real
and not afraid of controversial subjects.
No.
Because some people just say, you know what, I'm going to try not to offend. I'm going to focus on my community.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to talk about gender politics. I'm not going to talk about guns. I'm not going to talk about abortion. I'm not going to talk about.
Now, who are those people, by the way? Exactly.
Don't know.
Exactly.
Don't know. But there seem to be a lot of them.
Well, again, I mean, if you want to be white noise, then do the same thing.
Do you catch some heat?
It depends on how you define heat, but obviously there's some people that don't necessarily like what I have to say, but that's going to happen no matter what.
Well, because what I've found, and I'm thinking it through now, watching you and others just be straight up, is I'll talk about, like, say, for example, the elections coming up. And I'll say something like, listen, regardless of who gets into office, the most important thing is what you're going to do with your life. It's not Republican or Democrat. And it never has been and never will be. And the world's not going to stop spinning unless you stop taking charge of your life. Take charge and move forward. And don't be played by all this stuff. People are like screaming me down, stay in your lane. You talk about network marketing. You don't need to be talking about this stuff. You don't understand. And I mean, they would just go bananas.
Did it sway you?
A little.
See, then I can teach you something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm examining it a bit.
You're more worried about their opinion.
Well, what I'm worried about, what I'm trying to do is focus on my mission, which is to help solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, grow their businesses. Right.
Yes, as do I.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying I'm examining it by watching people who are unafraid. They're not doing it for shock value, but they're unafraid of just saying their opinion. And I've I followed Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn's one of my heroes. And you could tell he had a spiritual background, but you never know which religion.
If you knew where I was going, you'd get up in the morning too.
Right, Mr. Rohn. And I asked him about it. And he said, Eric, what I found is you can talk about God all you want, just don't talk about Jesus, because then it will create a whole bunch of stuff and it'll polarize your audience. But universal is God. So I just keep it universal. And so I'm like, okay, and he's my mentor. I'm kind of following this thing, but I do have opinions about spirituality and religion. I do have opinions about the ideas and things that are going on around the world. And I've watched the unafraid brands out there just willing to say what they're going to say and do what they're going to do. It's like I was scared to death. I would have been scared to death to put Donald Trump on my stage.
Why?
At an event. I was just because of what it would do.
I would love to have Donald.
I know. But then I watched Grant Cardone. It's like, damn, all right, one for you. And he just doesn't care. He's fine with having equal love and equal hate. Completely 100% fine with it.
He realizes what very few of us realize. You can't make everyone happy.
So, I mean, I have to rethink.
There's people that don't like what you say.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
So why aren't you concerned with them? Why are you so concerned about the Trump haters? Like, who gives a shit? If a Trump hater doesn't like you because you like Trump, so be it. And by the way, the way I explain it is, in my mind, the universe has a natural filtering process. If you become authentically you and you state how you feel, and I'm assuming with ethics and integrity, because you got to be a good person for this to hold true. I'm a good person, period. So nobody can tell me otherwise. So if you're a good person and you do the right thing, and you just remain authentic to who you are, the universe will filter out the people that shouldn't be around you automatically, because they won't like you. They will think you're odd. They'll think you're rude. They'll think whatever they think, but they will not hang around you. They will not like you, and they will go away. And then the ones that freaking align with you, and they'll freaking flock to you. And I would rather be surrounded by everybody. Like, people say, what do you want, a bunch of yes people around? Yeah, that'd be great. Like, wouldn't you? Because again, people are always got this scarcity mindset. You don't want a bunch of yes people around you. Well, that's because how you're defining yes people.
Well, I guess what I've been afraid of is polarizing half my audience. Take a subject that's 50% one side, 50% another side, and I pick one side, and the other people say, I'm unfollowing you because the fact that you said that thing, and now half of my prospects are going to go the other direction.
Untrue.
Educate me.
Well, you would have picked up another follower because you said it. And there'd be more rabid followers. Like Grant Cardone's got like a cult-like following. 10X. Like, he didn't make up 10X. But yet everyone gives him credit for it. Why? Because he's been saying it so long. But dude, he's got a cult-like following, and he doesn't care. I always tell a funny story when I do speaking engagements, and it was because Grant, as we all know, I pretty much made his ass. But back in the day, before he was anybody, I was talking with him, and I told him, dude, if you keep posting as much as you are on social media and you keep doing what you're doing, dude, you're going to lose followers. You're going to screw us up, because I got a little piece of his ass, and still do, by the way. How you like me, Grant? But no, I just say that to rip him, because me and him go back and forth. But but it is true. Okay, people say, who's better? I go, well, he sends me a check every month. I don't know. You tell me. But I told him, stop posting so much. Stop doing what you're doing. You're going to lose followers. I thought like you did. And one day I called him and I said, dude, you're not listening, bro. I'm going to have to unfollow you, because I can't stand this constant bombardment of ads and buy your shit. And I'm not going to be the only one, dude. And he said, go ahead. You ain't buying nothing. That's what he said. Go ahead. You ain't buying nothing. And he was right. And I was wrong. So now looking back, it's like, dude, don't worry about who's unfollowing you. Okay. Worry about who is following you. Okay. Because the ones that follow you and the ones that are liking what you're saying, they're going to follow you and buy from you and be way more. If they're unfollowing you because you happen to like Trump, dude, in my mind, they should unfollow you. You're worried about losing half your audience rather than gaining a real audience, because half your audience, in other words, there might be some scarcity mindset in
For sure, 100%.
You're worried about losing half of your audience, but you're not thinking you're going to be gaining 3 times the audience. And when I teach people about how to build a brand, I really, drive into that, because you have to, stop trying to figure out the content that you want to make and start being the content. And that's when people start to see who you are and what you think and what you believe. And if you're walking around trying to be vanilla so you don't offend anybody, you're just going to be white noise and no one's going to listen to you anyway.
I've been so vanilla.
Well, you've been safe. But hey, in your mind, you attribute success to that.
Well, there is a people pleaser in me. There is the self-worth issues.
Yeah, but how do you know you wouldn't have been worth 3 times as much if you'd have just said what
Believe
you
me, I'm
believed.
listening. I am listening to that. To
Of course, you got to be careful too, dude, because it can ruin you.
Well, come on, don't give me that.
Well, I mean, you got to be smart about it. You can't be.
Where's that line?
I think it's common sense, that line. Like.
Well, you can't do stuff that will get you canceled.
I wouldn't know.
Right.
Like I got in big trouble from the right, almost, let's just call them, because I said, watch what you say on social media. Like, don't be stupid. Why? Well, because you'll get canceled. You get suspended. You'll get shut down, dude. And that's stupid. If you want to reach people, social media is how you do it nowadays. You don't put ads in the newspaper. You put ads in the newspaper?
No.
Okay, dude, you pick up social media, man. It's a TV station in your hand. And if you don't watch what you say, you could be shut out of that. And
so how did that get you in trouble with the right?
Because they said, bullshit, don't succumb to,
Well, if you don't say anything, then you're giving it.
Yeah, well, then
you're approving it.
Exactly. Like, in other words, like, you're part of the problem. And I'm like, dude, listen, let me look at your account. Well, they suspended me. Exactly. Shut up.
Talk to me about profanity.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the audience. If I'm with adults, all adults, and someone doesn't like my language, well, then I say that's their problem. But around children,
okay. How about on your podcast?
Oh, I use profanity on my podcast.
Yeah,
but like here I won't. Why? Because you come across as professional.
I don't want you to censor yourself all of a sudden because we're sitting down having this conversation. We're actually talking about authenticity, right?
True, but I mean, I'm not authentically a cusser, but I'm not afraid to cuss.
You're not?
No.
What do you mean you're not?
Like I hang around my children all day. I don't sit there and cuss at them.
Right.
Although I have slipped and they catch me and they tell me, Daddy, you said this. And I'm like, yeah, sorry.
So situationally.
Yeah, it's you got to use common sense. Same thing with social media. Like I'm not going to run around and frickin', talk about, cultural things in a negative manner. Cause then, you're going to get canceled. I don't want to be canceled. So like when it comes to genders, I believe there's 2,
right?
Male and female. I'm not going to play into that stupidity where you identify as a female. So that makes you one. No, it doesn't. You're not a female just because you identify with one. And again, I'm not going to not say that, but I'm not going to go dive into it and start getting rude. Like you want me to, you want to be a woman, go ahead and be a woman. Like, I don't care.
Right.
Gay people want to get married. Go ahead, be gay, get married. I swear I have no problem with that. Why? Because I let everyone be what they want to be.
Right.
But I'm not going to say I'm gay when I'm not. I'm not going to say you're a woman when you're not. Just not going to do it.
Right. So you find your line to be authentic, but not rude.
Just tell the truth.
Yeah. But not rude, not insensitive.
Yeah. Like people say, Brad, is there ever a good time to lie? And I say, yes. Like lying is okay. No one will say that, but that's the truth. Lying is okay. You probably should lie sometimes. Number one, if there's a chance you go to prison, like I would lie. I would advise you to lie. As your lawyer, I would advise you to lie. If you did it, do not say you did it. Deny, 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 deny. Lie your ass off if you're going to prison. Now, someone says, well, if Brad's ever going to prison, he'll be lying. I guarantee you, I will be lying. I'm not ever going to get myself put in prison. So I would lie for that reason. And then sometimes you lie to save somebody harm,
Hurt their feelings.
It depends. But again, save them harm. Like if my wife says, does this dress make me look fat? I'm not going to say, no, your fat makes you look fat. I'm going to say a little bit, I like that black one on you, or something. Why? Because she does look fat. Not my wife, but people's wives. I wouldn't tell the truth, so to speak, because that's rude and it hurts their feelings. But I would tell them the truth kindly, because I do care about them. Love ain't lies. Love is not lies.
Yeah.
Just remember that. People need to understand what that means. Like, don't hate me because I'm telling you the truth. Okay, that's what love is. Okay, love is not lies.
I also would add, it's kind of okay to lie to an idiot that wants to argue with you about their idiot opinion. And by just saying, hey, you're absolutely right, and walk away. Let them live in their opinion. You don't need to get into every debate. You don't need to agree with, or disagree with everything just because you disagree with it. You know what I mean? I've wasted so much time trying to take somebody who's arrogant and ignorant and argue with them. And I've just not recently, but in the last 5 to 10 years, just say, you must be right. Good luck with that. And just keep walking.
I would agree. Again, to me, this is common sense. And what's crazy, and we've all heard it, common sense isn't very common.
True.
And that's just so true. There's a lot of things I think, everyone knows this, don't they? And they don't.
Right.
Like earlier, some kids were asking me, how do you get a job in sales? I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, how do I get a job in sales? I'm like, you just go apply. They're like, where? I'm like, car dealerships, furniture stores. What do you want to sell? They're like, what do I say? I said, you walk in there and say, I'll outperform your best guy here. Where do you get that confidence? It's like, guys, you have to literally raise your confidence if you're going to succeed.
Right.
You have to raise your self-worth to raise your net worth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But self-worth was a big issue for me growing up.
Me too.
Until probably, I would say 15 years ago, I was able to finally make a flip and feel like I was deserving and I was capable and I was worthy, instead of always self-deprecating all the time, self-deprecating to the point of too much self-deprecation. If you talk yourself down long enough, you're going to start believing it.
Even subconsciously.
Yeah.
And see, people don't understand the word subconscious. Sub, below, consciousness, awareness, below awareness. So subconsciously is below awareness. And a lot of people subconsciously do not think they deserve any better because of exactly that. They've been talking to themselves down for years. So is their parents, their friends, their family. Culture talks us down.
Yeah.
Be humble. Who do you think you are?
Religion taught me that.
Yeah.
Religion say, no, never take any credit for anything. It's always give credit to another source, never.
Well, let's give credit to God.
I understand. But never say, no, I did that. I made that.
Yeah. If you look up the definition of humble, it says to have a low opinion of one's own importance. And I think you got to do the opposite damn near to succeed.
Yeah.
You have to believe you're important and raise your self-worth.
You know how my self-worth challenges evidenced themselves in my life? I was always an earner. I could always bring in money, but I never had a lot. I found ways to sabotage my own wealth through bad relationships, bad partnerships, bad investments, blowing it on stupid things, losing my mind and going crazy and purchasing something that I didn't need to have or shouldn't have or wasn't ready to have. Sabotage my own growth inside of my business by procrastination and inconsistency without even realizing why I was doing it, going in a success coma, going through the motions and not really growing. All those different things caused me to keep myself scrappy and hungry and on the edge all the time instead of being able to have wealth, real wealth, without feeling guilty for having it. Because I always felt guilty.
Why is that?
I just always did. It was part of my DNA growing up. I felt guilty for having it. It's like if it was in my pocket, it felt weird. It's the part of me that needed to always buy everybody dinner.
I do that still.
I understand, but I did it out of a lack of self-worth, not out of a need to, not a need, but a desire to just give and be a blessing to people. You know?
Well, I do it because I don't like to order if I'm not buying.
Yeah.
So literally,
you beat us to the tab last night. You know,
I beat everyone to the tab.
Not always.
Don't feel bad.
Come on, not always. I mean, we're usually pretty good at it.
99% of the time, I'm beating people to the tab unless they know. Because if you know me, you know I'm buying. I'm buying.
Yeah.
And like I said, the honest answer is not because I want to be giving and a blessing and all that. It's because I want to order what the I want to order.
Yeah.
And I don't want to,
feel weird.
Like it's if you're paying the bill, it's like, should I get another burrata? Should I get another one of those? But if I'm paying the bill, then hey, give me 2 burratas. You want one?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, good. Boom, boom, boom. And I eat like freely, knowing full well that I'm buying. Now, some people that know me, they will go out of their way to buy because they feel like they need to for some reason. I don't. I say you can buy or I can buy. But if you buy, I'm not ordering what I want. I'm ordering politely because it's yours.
Right.
So I'll be like, I just want one.
Yeah. I'll take a salad.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
You want another one? No, thank you. Any dessert? Oh, no, I'm full. Yeah, I wish I could have all those desserts. And by the way, that's why one of the reasons my wife married me.
Why? What do you mean?
Because I order all the desserts.
Really? And that was
when
interesting to her?
She freaking never saw anything like it. Like she will tell you, he orders all the desserts, and I knew I wanted to marry him when I saw that. But it's literally like they say dessert menu, and I'm like, just bring one of each, and they're like, excuse me, bring one of each. They're like, they always look at her. Is he serious? She's like, yes, he's serious. And why? Well, because I'm not going to eat them all, but I want them all. And I think it's because when I was a kid, my dad didn't have a bunch of money, and he would tell us what we were going to eat when we went to a restaurant. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't very much. Like he would always tell me when we go to breakfast, I'm getting a short stack of pancakes. That's what I got. You get the short stack of pancakes. There was no arguing either. So now that I can have anything I want, it's like,
got to have a bite of everything.
I order it all.
Right.
So that's why I tend to pay for dinners that I'm at, because at the end of the day, I want to order what I want.
So what else have you learned?
And knowing that if I had your money, I'd probably burn mine.
Shut up.
I'm not buying it because I want to be a blessing to you, because that you could care less.
Shut up.
I've won a lot of relationships buying dinners, because believe it or not, most people, especially with money, they're always buying dinner because none of their friends have any intention of ever paying for a dinner.
Right. Yeah. You do stand out when you're like, no. I know you always do. You're not today.
Yeah.
You got to be sneaky with some of those people. You got to like go to the maitre d' and
you ever heard of
give them a credit card ahead of time.
You ever heard of Harvey Mackay?
Yeah, he's a very good friend.
Harvey Mackay, dude, I think it was Harvey. It might have been Tom Hopkins, but one of those two taught me the very best way to do it, period, and that is you go to a restaurant that you go to a lot. Even if you don't, you call ahead, but you say, here's my credit card. Go ahead and, charge 40% for a tip, but do not bring a check.
Yep.
Period. So like we'd go out to eat and they'd walk over and they'd say, oh, your money's no good here.
That's Harvey.
Yeah. I think it was Harvey.
That's Harvey.
I've thought that's slicker than Circus Lemonade right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I walk in and I hand it to whoever's in charge way before. So when the bill comes, people are like, oh no, I got it. They're like handing it for me to sign. And people are like, when'd you do that? Like when I walked in.
Let me tell you a Harvey story. He told me the same thing. He has all these hacks on how to always get your car up front of everything. And he's been in the front row of every Olympics, and he's lived this extraordinary life. He's 90 years old and just unbelievable. He golfs 4 or 5 times a week and shoots his age every day. He told me the story of Larry King and he was going to go have dinner with Larry King, and he heard Muhammad Ali was in town, so he invited Muhammad Ali, and Larry King's a big Muhammad Ali fan. So they get to this restaurant, and there's Larry, Muhammad Ali, and Harvey comes, and they're sitting down having this conversation, and this beautiful knockout woman comes over to the table and said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could I get an autograph?" And turns to Harvey to get the autograph. And Harvey's like, "Well, sure, happy to help you." Gives the autograph, and she goes, "Thank you so much. Just sorry to bother you other guys." And she goes to walk away. And Larry King just could not believe. He's like, "What is going on?" Just like, "Young lady, do you know this is the champ? This is Muhammad Ali, the champion of all time." And she says, "Yeah, I understand, but Mr. Mackay changed my life, And he's just like, and Harvey had set up the whole thing. He'd gone to the restaurant ahead of time. He found the most beautiful girl that worked at the restaurant. He asked her to come up and ignore the other two guys, Larry King, the big interview guy, and Muhammad Ali, and just do the autograph thing. So he finally broke it to them. They all broke down and had a laugh. But he did that kind of stuff all the time. Pre-planning, know your audience, know your customer, know the whole thing. Fabulous to watch the little life hacks that people do.
And those are the old school pros.
Yeah, for sure. You should have Harvey on sometime. Have him on.
I don't think I've ever had him on dropping bombs.
You should have him on the practical wisdom of what he's had in his life. He's top 1% in like 40 categories in life. Just unbelievable. Remarkable human being. So anyway, back to your brand and I'm just so fascinated by the value of authenticity, right? And being okay with everyone not liking you and just being yourself and letting that attract the way it's going to attract instead of just going down the middle and trying to appeal to everybody.
Well, I mean, I don't think like that. Like you said, I'm okay having no one like me. I'm not okay.
Not no one. I'm just saying.
But that's what you said.
Then I misspoke. Being okay having a portion of your audience.
That I am. But I'm not okay having no one like me.
Right.
If nobody likes me, I've got a problem.
Right.
But I realize that there's going to be people that don't. There's going to be people that are going to be mad at you for having me on here. There's going to be people going, "Why would you bring that arrogant son of a on your show?" Why? Because they find me arrogant. I don't know. But like, I don't care. It's not, I can't come to your show, Eric, because there's going to be some people that might not like me. Right. And then I'm worried about what you're going to think when they tell you, "Oh my God, why did you have him on?" So now I'm just going to avoid this whole thing. See, that would be the mistake. And a lot of people would not make a choice moving forward, getting on a podcast, doing their own TV show, taking an opportunity because of that. And it's just like, to me, that's just the ultimate foolishness.
Yeah.
Mainly because of this. You cannot make everyone happy. So I realize the simplicity of that. I can't make everyone happy. So if I can't make everyone happy, you have to choose.
I'm going to look for your tribe.
Well, you have to choose, right? So if you have to choose who to make happy out of everybody, who do you choose? Who do you choose? You choose you. You're the only one that's going to be with you the rest of your life. You're the only one guaranteed not to, leave on you. So you choose you, and that's why I said it's important that you're a good person, because if you choose you and you're a good person, it works. If you choose you and you're a freaking out to steal and screw people over, it's going to be temporary. You're going to get caught eventually. You'll be shot eventually. Something's going to happen. It's not going to be long term. So I'm just assuming you have to, be a good person. But once you know I'm a good person, because like you or anyone in the world cannot convince me I'm not one.
Right.
And so that's what gives me the strength to not care, because I don't need your approval of me. I have my own approval of me. Does that make a difference?
Yeah.
So it's like, if people are listening, like, well, how does he have the confidence to say that and do that? Well, because I'm not going to make everyone happy. And if I'm not going to make everyone happy, then who do I choose? Well, I choose me. And I'm okay with what I say,
right?
Or I wouldn't be saying it.
With dropping bombs and the brand that you built, TikTok and everything else, what other lessons have you learned over the course of, and when did you really, really lean into it?
Well, you have to buy my book for that. No, just joking.
Well, what's your book? Where can people find it?
Well, the book's called The Hard Way. Lessons I've learned the hard way, so you don't have to.
Got it.
But ultimately, it's just
where do they get it?
Amazon, I guess.
Amazon,
or wherever they get books.
Lessons I Learned the Hard Way.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble. I sold like 20,000 copies.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good for not trying to push it. But ultimately, it's just a series of stories that happened to me that taught me things, like the 6-year-old or 7-year-old lying story. That's in there because, again, that taught me not to lie. You got to tell the truth. So there's a lot of stories that, if you read the book, some people can say, I didn't know all of it, but, it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because I think you're going to learn what's in the book one way or the other. The question is, how much is it going to cost you? My book's like $20 or whatever. That's the cheapest you're ever going to learn all this stuff, but you're going to learn it no matter what.
Right.
They're just lessons, man. Be authentic, things like that. Learn to sell. If you want to be successful in this world, you better understand that you're going to sell something, and you have to practice, drill, and rehearse anything you want to become good at. So sales is something you should put effort towards. People go to school to be a doctor for, 8 years, some of them. And then they get out and make a couple $100,000 a year. Like a salesperson, a good one, a couple $100,000 a month easily. People are like, shh. I mean, especially in your line of work.
Sure.
Network marketing, there's hundreds of stories. They're all good salespeople.
Yeah.
If they weren't good salespeople, they wouldn't be. And by the way, what's good salespeople? To me, it's good help people. When I teach people sales, first thing I do is tell them, quit trying to be a good salesperson. Start trying to be a good help person. Because I want to help you with your online learning. I want to help you develop a course that's going to make a bunch of money. I'm not trying to sell you on mine, using mine. I'm trying to help you. And as long as you try to help somebody authentically, you probably do pretty well in life. Solve problems for people. That's the secret, if there is one. The more problems I can solve for people, the richer I will be.
Brad Lea, amazing conversation. We're going to have a to be continued because there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to get to, but it'll be another time. Thanks for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Dude, my pleasure.
You're going to see a difference in my content. I'm going to be a little bit more direct as a result of this conversation.
Well, I think you should.
Yeah,
I think you should. That way, and again, I'll bet you money, your audience doesn't shrink. It'll grow.
Appreciate you, brother.
Sure, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot for listening to our conversation with Brad Lea. If you liked it, please do me a favor and subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe to whatever channel you're watching this on. And if you would, leave us a review. It would mean the world to us. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.